subscribe to my YouTube channel. And at 20 years old, she was thrilled to begin her first job as a nurse in a big New York City hospital. After her overnight shift, she decided to surprise her adoptive parents, Mike and Elaine, by coming home early. The subway ride felt strangely slow that morning. The dim lights flickered, and an unsettling silence filled the train car. By the time Ava reached her street, the early dawn should have been peaceful, but instead, it felt disturbingly still. As she turned the corner toward her house, an eerie chill crept up her spine. Something wasn't right. Her heart quickened as she noticed the front door slightly ajar. "Mom, Dad," she called out softly, stepping inside. Her blood ran cold at the sight before her parents were caged, surrounded by shadowy, supernatural beings with glowing eyes. "Ava, run!" her father shouted, his voice urgent. "Save yourself?" her mother added, panic in her voice. Before Ava could process what was happening, one of the creatures lunged at her. Just as its clawed hand reached for her, a tall, strikingly handsome man appeared out of nowhere. His eyes glowed with a golden light as he struck the creature down with effortless strength. Before she could even ask who he was, his gaze locked with hers. His voice was calm, almost soothing. "Sleep," he whispered, his words wrapping around her like a spell. Ava's world faded to black as he caught her in his arms, carrying her away into the unknown, a world where werewolves, magic, and danger awaited. Want me to continue? Or do you want to keep it short and build from here? Also, should I describe more about the supernatural guy and his world? When Ava opened her eyes, she was greeted by an unfamiliar world. This was not her home, not New York. Everything looked regal, ancient, and strangely magical. She lay in a grand room with high ceilings, ornate carvings on the walls, and soft golden light filtering through the curtains. The door creaked open, and a tall, handsome man stepped inside, carrying a tray of food. His golden eyes gleamed as he approached. His presence was commanding, yet there was something calming about him. Ava instinctively shifted back, her heart pounding. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. Before he could answer, a voice whispered in her mind, "Ava, don't tell me you don't recognize your mate." Ava froze, her eyes darting around the room. Mate? Was she going mad? She had heard the voice clearly, but it didn't come from him, or did it? The man's expression softened as if he knew what she was thinking. "I know you're hungry. Eat. Once you're done, I'll be back," he said calmly before leaving the room. Confused and overwhelmed, Ava barely touched the food. Her thoughts raced as she tried to piece together what was happening. Later, in the grand hall, the same man now dressed in royal attire ascended a majestic throne. His dark hair framed his face, and a cloak embroidered with silver symbols hung over his shoulders. Ava watched from a distance as the room filled with elegantly dressed elders who bowed in respect. "Your Majesty, Alpha Edward," one elder began, "you must choose a mate before the full moon. It's imperative for the future of our pack." Alpha Edward's sharp gaze swept across the room, his expression unreadable. "I'm not ready," he said dismissively, leaning back in his throne. "You can't continue this way, Alpha," another elder urged. "The full moon is approaching. You must take a mate for the sake of our kind." Edward stood abruptly, his eyes flashing with frustration. "The meeting is adjourned until I decide," he declared, turning on his heel and disappearing into the shadows of the hall. "Want me to continue? I can add more about Ava's discovery of this new world, the deepening connection with Edward, and the danger of the upcoming full moon.